We are turning our attention now from Massachusetts to Florida, where details surrounding the death of an 18-year-old teenager, Anna Kepner. It's being revealed in a child custody hearing that doesn't have to do specifically with her death. Now, Shauntel Hudson Kepner, who was married to Anna Kepner's biological father, she's in a dispute with her ex-husband over the custody of their 3 minor children. Remember, this is the teen who mysteriously died on a Carnival cruise during a time with her family, a blended family. Now, one of those children of the Kepners is a 16-year-old stepbrother, and he has reportedly been a person of interest and suspect in her murder, has not been charged or arrested. And before we take you into court for that child custody hearing where a lot of these details are being revealed, let's take a look back at a closer look at the victims who are at the heart of this case.
She was a great woman.
She always wanted to make people laugh. She loved the water. We were constantly going to the lake here where I live.
There's apparently an FBI investigation ongoing that the mother took the 2 younger children on a cruise, and that the older child, who was approximately 16 years of age, is a suspect in the death of the stepchild, an 18-year-old daughter that was in the same room.
Whenever I was on FaceTime with her, and when I was on FaceTime with her, and she was laying down, and the brother tried to go on top of her, and
you saw that?
Yeah. And then
how did she react to that?
I was like, what the hell are you doing in her room, you know? Then he got scared and like ran away. And I heard his footsteps like running through the house, you know, because he got caught.
Mom, immediately after the incident, he was hospitalized, and then when released from the hospital, Mom and Dad participated too. They signed a stipulation basically allowing him to live with Mom's relative, and they're getting counseling and so forth for him.
It was suspicious because I knew that the brother did it, and yeah.
How do you know that?
Because of the past things that happened with him, like I was saying.
Now, according to family members, a cabin steward found Anna Kepner's body under the bed of her cabin room in that cruise ship. Investigators say the teen died from asphyxiation. And now the teen's father, the one who is a person of interest suspect who hasn't been charged, Thomas Hudson is the father, and he has filed a petition claiming he's concerned that a younger child that he shares with his ex-wife, Shauntel, was in imminent danger due to those events on the cruise ship. So let's get you into the courtroom for the start of today's hearing. And a quick note on this, we do have the name of the teen suspect's name muted, so you won't hear that. You'll hear the audio drop. Let's go in.
I wanted to address a couple of things. I reviewed the emergency motion for temporary relief, Mr. Smith, and it does appear as though a lot of the allegations alleged within that motion are really in the nature of contempt. I know that there is a contempt proceeding, a contempt hearing being held on December the 17th, I believe, before Magistrate Valentine. The court's purpose in the hearing today is only to address the issues as it relates to an emergency. So as I'm looking at the motion, the paragraph specifically that the court will address would be related to paragraph 7. The 16-year-old child is now a suspect in the death of the stepchild during the cruise. While released from custody, the 16-year-old child is residing with a third party. Paragraph 17, the 16-year-old's future has been put in jeopardy because of the choices made by the respondent. And paragraph 19, and most importantly, the youngest child is at immediate risk of abuse, abandonment, or neglect in the care of the respondent. So those are the issues that the court is going to address here this morning, is whether or not, in fact, the court needs to take some sort of emergency action based on those allegations contained within the motion. As it relates to the other provisions in there with regard to alienation and violating court orders, et cetera, I'm going to allow those. That was properly referred to the general magistrate, and that hearing has been set for December the 17th.
You know, I understand the court's ruling. Obviously, we think part of the alienation of the children is part and parcel of the immediate risk to the children because the father is limited in his contact with the children.
Well, and it's okay to address those issues because that goes to the risk to the children. But if the goal is for the court to hold mom in contempt because she's not allowing the children to speak to dad or something along those lines, that's really more of a contempt issue. So I'm really specifically interested in the risk of abuse, abandonment, and neglect of the youngest child, and also to hear the status of the middle child. I understand that there was a stipulation and that the child was residing with a relative, a third party. That, of course, will be important to the court to determine whether or not the youngest child will have any contact with that child and whether that could create an imminent risk to the child.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any questions then with regard to the court's ruling on that?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Athanasson, any questions from you?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Smith, you may begin with opening.
Your Honor, in this case, obviously, it's our position that the youngest child is at risk for a number of reasons. As the court is aware through the pleadings, there's a young lady who's passed away. That matter is still under investigation. That was not my client's child, but the stepchild of the mother in this case, and the remaining 16-year-old is now a suspect in that case. In this case, the mother took the children, both Brooke, on a cruise against my client's wishes, while preventing him from having regular contact with those children. We believe that the arrangements that were made by the mother, as far as the sleeping arrangements, were insufficient. That the 18-year-old, the 16-year-old, and another 14-year-old were all placed in the same stateroom. There's indications that they may have, because they were in international waters, may have been engaging in activities that they normally couldn't engage in while they were in the United States properly being supervised. In addition, we will present evidence that through the older child, who's now 18, so he's an adult, but he is the son of the parties, as to violence, alcohol use in the past, and he's been living with his father for approximately almost 2 years now, since these parties had their separation, where, as the court is aware, there was an original divorce case, there was parenting time, both parties were in Hernando County. Then the mother relocated by agreement between the parties over to Titusville. Since she relocated to Titusville, that's when the problems have occurred, where the father has been very limited in his access to the children. I'd reserve with regard to any other comments until closing.
Okay, we're just starting out with this custody hearing. We'll get you back in for more after this quick break. Again, this is a hearing that is surrounding this cruise ship death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner. And it's not in Florida where all of that happened, but we will bring you more of the details coming up next.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, a murder on a cruise ship and a custody dispute involving a suspected teenage killer. We bring you the latest surrounding the death of Anna Kepner.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
A Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
Welcome Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are bringing you a custody hearing in family court in Florida, where the people involved are also related to the Carnival cruise ship death mystery case involving 18-year-old Anna Kepner, who was found dead. As the FBI investigates this death, Thomas Hudson, the father of the teen who the family suspects in that death, has filed an emergency motion. Now, Thomas claims that the youngest child that he shares with Shauntel Kepner, who is Anna's stepmom, was in imminent danger due to the events on the cruise ship. So let's go back in and listen to more of the opening remarks that are happening between these two attorneys who represent this mother and father.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Smith. If the oldest child has been residing with the respondent for 2 years, and this I understand, I saw that there's a supplemental petition for modification that's also pending, so that would be an ultimate issue for trial. How would this, is it your intention to have the oldest child testify?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what if has the oldest child had any contact with the two other children or the respondent since he's been living with the petitioner for the last 2 years?
Well, one of the main things is the circumstances where he wound up living with my client. There was a physical altercation.
That would have been 2 years ago, correct?
A year and a half, yes, Your Honor. And he was also allowed to drink alcohol, which again, I think goes to the relevancy of whether these children whether the mother in this case encouraged the underage alcohol, especially on the cruise ship. And the violence again, the allegations are this 18-year-old has passed away in a violent manner. The 18-year-old will testify as that there was violence between himself, his mother, and the stepfather. And he has had recent contact with Brooke, and I think that goes to the whether there's any risk to Brooke returning to the father. The child was allowed finally to come over for a Thanksgiving visit.
The child being Brooke?
Brooke.
Okay.
She was restricted from contact with the one that there are allegations against, but did have contact with Andrew, her adult brother, and exhibited no fear, no reservations. Both my client as well as the 18-year-old can testify about that.
Well, remember though, this isn't we're here on an emergency motion, so this isn't an issue as to where it is in the best interest of the minor children to reside. I mean, that is ultimately an issue for trial in the modification action. The only issue that we're here to address today is whether or not Brooke is in imminent danger remaining in the petitioner's care as a result of recent incidents. So that's really primarily the court's concern today.
Well, and Your Honor, I understand that position, and certainly whether or not the child's to be removed from the mother is whether or not there's an imminent risk to the child. I think the court also has to look at where the child would be placed and the circumstances there as to whether there's any harm to relocating the child. I think you have to, in terms of emergency relief and an injunction, essentially, you have to look at...
I think you're looking at two different things. This isn't an injunctive relief. I mean, you're not here seeking injunctive relief. I mean, that would have been in the injunction court, correct?
Well, we're seeking to have the child removed from the mother and placed with the father. So I think that the court needs to look at whether or not there would be any harm to that. Obviously, our position is there wouldn't be, that she'd be able to transition to the father fine.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree with your argument, Mr. Smith, but I understand what your argument is. Okay. Ms. Anderson, opening?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. We believe, and I think we filed that in our response, that there's no emergency that exists. There was an incident on the cruise ship. The Federal Bureau of Investigations is investigating that. There have been no arrests made yet, but since my clients were advised that he was a suspect in that, after he was released from the hospital upon the return to the United States, he was placed with a relative of the mother's. And not only did that happen, but mom contacted dad, and dad signed an agreement to say that this child would be placed with a third party, thereby removing any risk of any danger to any of the other children in the home. So that has been resolved, and there's been nothing mentioned of that. Nobody's saying, I don't hear the other side saying that they participated in that in any way, whereas the father was advised and did participate. The minor child, Brooke, you're going to hear testimony that she's fine, that there is no risk to her. There were abuse reports made. We have a person here from the Department of Children and Families that can attest that there's no concerns about the child remaining in the care of Shauntel and Chris Kepner.
All right, thank you.
All right, those are the opening remarks from either side. Let's bring in former prosecutor and constitutional attorney Chris Ann Hall, who was watching along with us. A lot to unpack here, Chris Ann. I mean, this has been a story that's captured so much attention. We don't usually show custody hearings in our cases, but in this case, the FBI is investigating. There have not been any arrests yet, but in a court of law, they are having to decide whether or not there's this issue of the minor children still being around the young man, this teen, who is a named person of interest, according to what the family told their attorneys.
Yeah, this is going to be a legally fascinating case because you have the custody issues that are going to take place in Florida based on Florida law, but then you also have the death case in which we're dealing with maritime law and the U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI. So it's really going to be a fascinating weaving together of two different kinds of laws. What's interesting here in the state of Florida, the inclination in law is to keep a child where they are. So the burden of proof has to rest on the side that wants the child's custody to be removed. And there will always be a tendency, even a judicial tendency, to keep a child in a place where they are, and the burden of proof has to establish probable cause that no other remedy can ensure the safety of the child other than removal. So there really is a predisposed understanding that a child needs to stay in the custody pattern that they're already in, unless there's no other way to solve the problem.
All right, Chris Ann, I'm so glad we have your insight, especially being a Florida barred lawyer. Let's get to our break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from the stepmom side of things in the emergency custody hearing when we come back. Plus, don't forget, we have a verdict watch that is going on in Georgia. This is the case versus Trinity Poe. She was accused in the toddler death of her boyfriend's child. The jury has been out 52 minutes now. They heard riveting closings earlier today. If they have a question or they come back with a verdict, we will take you there into that Georgia courtroom. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae. We're taking you back into that Florida courtroom. It's family court, a child custody hearing between the victim, Anna Kepner's stepmom, and her ex-husband. Of course, Anna Kepner was the 18-year-old who was found dead on a cruise ship. Her stepbrother is someone that has been called a suspect by authorities, according to her family. Now, let's get you back into the courtroom now. The stepmom, Shauntel Hudson Kepner, is on the stand. She is speaking about the day that Anna Kepner died. Let's keep in mind that we are muting the name of the alleged minor suspect's name, so when you hear the audio go out, that's the reason. Let's watch.
Please state your name, ma'am.
Shauntel Kepner.
And do you know Thomas Hudson?
Yes.
And how do you know Mr. Hudson?
We were formerly married.
And how long were you married?
About 12 years.
And do you have any children between the two of you?
We have 3 children.
What are their names and ages?
Andrew's 18, 16, and Brooke is 9.
And there recently was did you recently go on a cruise?
Yes.
Okay. And did any of the children go with you on the cruise?
Brooke and
Did you reach out to Mr. Hudson to request that he agree to passports for the children?
I reached out to him to inform him of my itinerary to take the children on a cruise and did ask for the passports, but they weren't needed in this cruise.
And Mr. Hudson actually refused to cooperate with obtaining passports, correct?
To sign for the passports, yes.
You said passports weren't necessary, so they weren't obtained?
Correct.
As far as the minor children, what were the sleeping arrangements on this cruise?
Brooke was in my room with my husband and his 9-year-old daughter, and then shared a room with his stepsister and stepbrother. The room was directly across from ours.
What was the stepsister's name?
Anna Kepner.
And what was the stepbrother's name?
Connor Kepner.
And how old is Connor?
14.
And how old was Anna?
18.
Now, who made the decision to have these 3 teenagers in one room in the cruise?
We had talked it over with our travel agent, and that was what was suggested.
Did you have to sign any special permission for the children to reside together? So was it a mutual decision between yourself and your husband?
Correct.
And at some point, did you discover that one of the children had passed away?
Yes.
And when was that you discovered that?
Friday morning.
When was the last time that you had seen the child before that Friday morning?
Thursday night.
You know approximately what time?
Right around 6:30.
And your child, did you see him that Thursday night as well?
Yes.
What time did you see him at?
Closer to 7. Just a little bit before 7.
And what was he doing at that time?
He was headed back to his room.
Do you know whether or not Connor was present in the room as well?
They all were headed back to their room, as far as I know.
So, where was their room in relation to your room?
Right across the hall. You walked out my door, their door was right in front of it.
Did you return to your room that evening?
Yes.
What time did you return to your room?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.?
Yeah, right. It was actually closer to 7:30.
Did you stay in the room for the rest of the night?
Yes.
With the teenagers across the hall, did you ever go in and check on them?
No, I had went to sleep.
Do you know if Christopher went across the hall to check on them?
Not that I know of.
Do you know if Connor ever left the room that night on that Thursday night?
I never seen him leave the room.
As far as goes, have you made arrangements for to reside with a relative?
Correct.
And why did you do that?
It was something that his father and I mutually decided.
Did you suggest it to him, or did he suggest it to you? Who brought it up first?
It was something that we had talked about because neither one of us could bring it back to our home.
Why couldn't you bring back to your home?
I'm looking out for the safety of the other children in the home.
Now, when you talk about the home, you have a home with Christopher, your husband?
Yes.
Okay. And does Christopher have other children that come to that home?
He has 2 other kids.
And one of them being Connor?
Correct.
And the younger child that slept in the room with you as well?
Yes.
Is Connor still allowed to come to the home?
Yes.
How many bedrooms is the home that you're in?
We have a 3-bedroom house with an addition room downstairs.
So what are the sleeping arrangements when all the kids were there prior to this cruise?
The two youngest girls shared a room, the two boys shared a room, and Anna had her own room.
As far as the evening, that Thursday evening on the cruise, had you been drinking at all?
No.
Had you drank at all during the cruise?
I had 2 pina coladas and a blue Hawaiian earlier in the week, but it wasn't on the same day. It was like one a day.
Do you know if the children, based on being in international waters, could drink alcohol?
No.
You don't know?
No, they didn't. They're not old enough.
What about Anna?
I don't know.
Weren't you aware that the children were gambling at some point?
Well, Anna's 18, so I know she was in there at one point in time, but the other kids were not.
You're sure that the other kids were not gambling?
I'm sure the other kids were not gambling.
As far as does he have any diagnoses?
He has ADHD.
And how long has he been diagnosed with ADHD?
About 3 or 4 years.
Those after your separation from Mr. Hudson, correct?
About that timeline, yes.
And does he receive medication for his ADHD?
He does.
And what medication was he on for his ADHD?
Methylphenidate.
Would you pronounce that for me and spell it, Pam, if you know?
Methylphenidate, I don't know the spelling.
Okay.
The name brand's Concerta. That helps.
Thank you.
And how often would you take that medication?
Every morning.
Step aside for a break. Keep in mind, we are in a family court setting. This is not a criminal court, but I wonder if any of the information that's coming out in this court setting could be used if there is a criminal trial. We'll talk about with our analysts on the other side of this break. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV.
The disappearance of mother Anna Walsh.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair.
It's a massive trail of evidence.
This incredible timeline of Google searches.
It shows everything that was in his mind.
He searched how long before a body starts to smell.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Now back to Florida for a child custody hearing involving the family of Anna Kepner. She was the teen who was found dead on a cruise ship last month. And Shauntel Kepner, her stepmother, who was married to Anna's biological father, Christopher, is in a dispute with her ex-husband over the custody of their minor children. And that includes Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother, who's being investigated in connection to her death, according to the family. Let's pick things up where we left off. The judge is hearing about possible living arrangements for the children while they were on this cruise, and also they're going to get to whether or not that teen stepbrother was medicated during the time of the cruise. We want to remind you we have been muting the audio when they mention that minor stepbrother's name because he has not been charged.
Did he take the medication on the cruise with him?
Yes. He also takes a nighttime pill as well.
The same medication?
No, it's clonidine.
What is that for?
Insomnia.
Did you hold on to the medications?
Yes.
Did you make sure he took his medications every day?
He took his morning pill every day, and he missed 2 doses of his clonidine at night.
You held on to the clonidine as well?
Mm-hmm.
That's yes?
Yes, sorry.
And what do you mean he missed the doses? What happened there?
He went to bed before he got it. He was already asleep.
including that Thursday night?
No, Thursday night he didn't get it. I had fell asleep before he did.
So just to make sure I understand, ma'am, while on the cruise, he missed taking that nighttime medication twice. One of the nights was because he fell asleep prior to taking the medication, and the other night was the night before.
Correct. I fell asleep before he did.
You fell asleep, so he did not get the medication the night.
Yeah, he didn't come
before the
and ask for
incident.
it. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
And was Brooke attending school prior to the cruise?
Yes.
And after the cruise, did she have to be removed from school?
They placed her on homeschool. They just unenrolled her this past Monday.
And why is that?
That was their choice to unenroll her.
Say their choice. Who are you talking about?
The school's choice. It had nothing to do with her behavior or anything. It had to do with the media.
She's currently on a homeschool status indefinitely?
No, she's being enrolled into another school.
Did you discuss that with Mr. Hudson?
I let him know that he had asked me to let him know when she was enrolled, and I told him I would. But I had just found out this week that she was unenrolled from the school.
As far as, is he going to be allowed to come back to your home at any point?
At this time, no. Not with the FBI investigation.
Whether or not your husband will allow him to return to the home even if the investigation's concluded?
As of right now, he's not coming back to the home.
Ms. Kepner, who all went on the cruise with you?
Myself, my husband, Anna, Connor, the two youngest girls, and then my mother-in-law and father-in-law.
What are their names?
Jeff and Barbara Kepner.
And where was their room in relationship to where your room and the children's room was?
2 floors above us.
Did they also help in the supervision of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Anna, who we know passed away, she was 18, correct?
Correct.
And she was an adult?
Correct.
And was she given the option of staying in another room?
All 3 of the kids were.
Okay. And would that room have been with Grandma and Grandpa?
Correct.
And they didn't want to do that?
No, they wanted to stay together.
Did they all get along?
Yeah, the 3 of them are like the 3 amigos. They're best friends.
Okay. And with regard to Connor, I know you were questioned about him. He's not a suspect, or you haven't been advised by anyone?
Correct, he's not a suspect.
As far as you know, is the only suspect in the death of Anna, your son?
Correct.
And with regard to the schooling, this was the movement of the children from one school to another wasn't because you just decided to randomly remove the children, correct?
Correct. The school decided to unenroll all of the children at the school.
Okay. When you say all of the children, who?
We had 4 total, including Anna, go to that school. They unenrolled all the other 3 kids.
Okay. All right. Because of and you were told because of the media coverage?
Yes.
And did they give you the recommendations of the school that you have enrolled them in?
Yes.
And that this new school is aware of the situation?
Correct.
And there's been no problems with Anna at the school, with Brooke at the school since this incident, correct?
Correct.
She was a good student?
Yep, straight A's.
I don't believe I have any further questions at this time.
Any redirect?
Just briefly. As far as Brooke, you mentioned her being a good student. Is she also diagnosed ADHD?
No.
Is she on any medication?
Yes, she takes some migraine medicine daily.
And are you the one that administers that medication?
Yes.
How long has she been on that medication?
She's been on that medication for 2 years now.
No further questions.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may step.
Thank you.
That wraps up the testimony of the stepmother of the victim in that Carnival cruise death. KrisAnne Hall still with us, former prosecutor and constitutional law attorney. KrisAnne Hall, I want to ask you about the commentary that we've heard from the mother in this. This is a child custody case. It is not a criminal trial. How much of it, though, do you think could be used if we see a criminal trial?
Well, statements made in the Florida custody hearing can absolutely be used by federal prosecutors. The confidentiality of a family court hearing does not extend to federal homicide criminal investigations. Even though the family court case is civil, anything said under oath becomes fair game in a federal homicide case unless the witnesses invoke the Fifth Amendment. Confidentiality protects the public from seeing the testimony, but it doesn't shield that from the FBI. To use a family court testimony, the federal prosecutors, they simply have to subpoena the sealed records and ask the federal judge to unseal it. And like I said before, the federal the Florida confidentiality rules do not block federal use of these things.
Okay. Anything you've heard from the stepmother on the stand that makes you think that there's a possibility we won't see criminal charges, or maybe the most harsh criminal charges, against the suspect?
No, it's going to be hard to tell. It's going to, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. He is only 16 years old, so technically he would be tried under juvenile justice laws. It's very rare that they elevate these things to adult cases, but that'll be left to see.
KrisAnne Hall, thanks so much for your analysis. We've got to get to a break. When we come back, we've got more of this emergency custody hearing, and the brother, eldest brother of that suspect, is going to be testifying next.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott, honored to be with you on this Friday, where we are bringing you a family custody hearing in Florida. Why? Well, because the people involved are also related to the Carnival cruise ship death mystery case. This involving 18-year-old victim Anna Kepner. And as the FBI investigates Kepner's death, Thomas Hudson is the father of her stepbrother, who is allegedly named a suspect in her death, and that father has filed an emergency motion. Thomas claims that the youngest child he shares with Shauntel, who is Anna's stepmom, was in imminent danger due to the events on the cruise ship. We'll hear from him later this hour, but for now, Thomas and Shauntel's eldest son is on the stand. And a reminder, the name of the alleged teen suspect in this case has been muted throughout, so if you hear quiet, that's why. Let's go back in.
Please state your name, sir.
Andrew Hudson.
And how old are you, sir?
18.
What's your birthday?
10/4/07.
You just turned 18 October 4th of this year?
Yes, sir.
And who do you reside with?
My dad.
And how long have you resided with your dad?
2 years.
And when you've been residing with your dad, have you been able to maintain contact with your brother?
No, not really.
What do you mean, not really?
Very, very little contact.
And why is that?
I haven't been allowed to see him. Yeah.
Who has he been living with up until recently?
Up to my knowledge, my mom.
How about your sister, Brooke? Have you been able to have contact with her since you've been living with your father?
I've seen her a few times, but it's kind of the same thing as my brother.
You mean they haven't been allowed to see her?
I've seen her recently once, but other than that, it was a while ago.
The recent time that you saw her, when was that?
I don't remember the exact date, but it was a weekend or two ago.
Did it coincide with the holiday?
Yeah, Thanksgiving. Yeah, sorry.
Was it Thanksgiving Day or just another day? Or
It was just Thanksgiving Day.
And how much time did you get to spend with Brooke?
It was about the full day.
Was your father there as well?
Yeah.
And did Brooke appear to be scared of your father in any way?
No, she was fine. She was happy-go-lucky, playing around.
Did you interact with Brooke?
Yeah.
How did things go between you and Brooke?
We had a great time. I was playing around with her. She was having a good time, up to my knowledge.
Before you started staying with your father full-time, did you and Brooke have a decent relationship?
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously the siblings, that kind of stuff, but other than that, me and her on good terms.
Are you still attending school?
Yes, sir.
You intend to graduate high school?
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason why Brooke couldn't live with your father?
No, not that I know of.
You doing well in school?
Yes, sir.
Why did you come to live with your father?
I believed I was better off over here with my dad.
Why did you believe you were better off?
Because I was going to finish out school and do trade school.
When your mother relocated, what was your understanding of what was going to happen with you?
I was going to finish out school over here and then possibly go to school to be a crane operator over there.
Had you talked to your mother about that?
We talked about it a few times, yes.
And is that what happened?
No, that's not what happened.
Okay. Was there some sort of problem that occurred?
Other than what happened before when they came in and took me.
So your understanding was that you were going to finish out school and then possibly relocate?
Mr. Smith, if I could get a time frame.
Yes, ma'am. Do you remember when this was?
I don't remember the exact date, no. But it was around prom, it was right after prom of last year, not last year, the year before last.
So not during this school year?
No.
The previous school year?
It was, I think, 2 school years ago.
And
So we're talking about 2023,
I believe so.
and prom occurs generally in the spring or in the fall?
To be honest, I don't remember.
You don't recall?
do you remember where you are as far as how far along in school that year?
I don't, honestly.
So let me just stop you a second. So you're questioning about incidents that occurred back in 2023. How would that be relevant to whether Brooke is in imminent risk of harm today, as we sit here in December of 2025?
Well, you gotta, first off, I know he doesn't remember the date, but it would have been 24 based on the relocation of the parties.
But but let me ask you this, would it have occurred prior to the party's stipulation that permitted Mrs. Hudson to move to and relocate to Brevard County?
No, it was after, Your Honor.
So it occurred after the stipulation?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll give you a little bit of leeway then.
Was there some sort of altercation that happened between yourself and your mother?
Yes, when they came in and took me from, they came in and took me from school and took me to Titusville.
How did you find out they were taking you to Titusville?
After I got in the car and they had took my phone already.
What do you mean they took your phone away?
I had gotten in the car, and as soon as I got in the car, she asked me for my phone. She took it and powered it off.
Is that normal for them to take away your phone?
No, sir.
Who else was in the car?
It was my mom and my stepdad at the time.
Would that have been Chris?
Yep.
And did you let them know that you didn't want to go to Titusville?
Yes.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 16, I believe.
And how did you let them know that you didn't want to go?
I told them I didn't want to go.
And they still held on to your phone?
Yeah.
Did you try and leave the vehicle?
I did, yes. When we stopped, I tried leaving, but as soon as I would try to get out, they would speed off.
Did anybody physically touch you?
Yes, I was put in a chokehold and held up against the seat, the front seat.
Who did that?
Both my mom and Chris.
Did that happen on several occasions during the drive or just one time?
They held me against the seat until I couldn't fight back anymore.
So how long did that last for then? If you remember.
I want to say like 20 minutes, 2.5 hours maybe.
And do you know how long your mother had been dating Christopher prior to that?
If I remember correctly, 5 months. I don't remember exactly how long.
Had you been to Titusville over those 5 months when she had been dating him?
I've been over there a couple times, yeah. It was sometimes every other weekend.
And during the 5 months that your mother was dating Christopher, did she allow you to drink alcohol?
Yeah.
What were the circumstances that happened?
We were just drinking. She would be on the phone with Chris sometimes, FaceTiming, and she would allow me to drink.
What type of alcohol do you recall?
I don't remember exactly what kind of alcohol it was.
Was it cans or?
It was out of a bottle.
Was it poured into a cup?
Yes, sir.
Were any of your other siblings there that you recall?
My brother might have been there, but I honestly don't remember.
So based on Chris being on you said FaceTime, so he was aware of what was going on? He could see what you were doing?
I believe so.
Did you see what he was doing on FaceTime?
No, sir.
You said you've been living about 2 years with your father, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And that was after your mom relocated to Titusville?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this incident you were speaking about in the car, that was because you were trying to get out of the car, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
They were trying to restrain you from getting out of the car, out of a moving vehicle, correct?
The vehicle was not moving.
Okay. But they were trying to keep you from moving or jumping out of the vehicle, correct?
Yeah.
And you wanted to stay because you wanted to be with your girlfriend, correct?
No, ma'am.
Your father at that time, wasn't he living in a camper and not in a regular house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you were staying with your grandmother then, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and not necessarily with your father?
Well, I would be over there in the camper every now and then, but yes.
Primarily with your grandmother?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay. And did you also stay on certain occasions with your girlfriend?
No, not at all.
But mostly with grandma?
Yep.
So I'm confused. Were you living with your mom primarily during this time, or were you living with your grandmother primarily during this time?
After what?
Prior to the incident in the vehicle.
Prior to that, I was with my dad before. After she relocated, I was living with.
Before she relocated, because before she relocated, who were you living with?
Before I was living with her, and then I would see my dad every other weekend.
Okay. And when were you living with your grandmother?
It was like on and off between my grandmother and my dad.
After your mother relocated to Titusville?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. And you were aware that your parents signed documents that she was going to be moving with all of you to Titusville, correct?
Yes.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Just when you said living in this trailer and living at your grandmother's house, was this on the same property or different properties?
There's 2 different properties.
Okay. Has your father subsequently obtained housing?
Oh, yes.
Okay. You have your own room?
Yes, I have my own room.
No further questions.
All right. Anything else?
No.
All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
All right, remember, this is a custody matter, an emergency family custody hearing in Florida. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to bring you more of the testimony. Stay tuned.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight, on closing arguments, a murder on a cruise ship and a custody dispute involving a suspected teenage killer. We'll bring you the latest surrounding the death of Anna Kepner.
Closing arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Back now to Florida in the child custody hearing between Anna Kepner's stepmom and her ex-husband. Kepner was the 18-year-old found dead on a cruise ship. Her stepbrother has been named a suspect, according to the family. Now, his father, Thomas Hudson, has filed an emergency motion regarding his youngest child. Thomas is now on the stand, and keep in mind we are muting audio of the alleged teen suspect's name. Let's go back into court together.
State your name, sir.
Thomas Hudson.
And Mr. Hudson, do you have any children?
Yes.
And what are their names and ages?
Andrew, 18, 16, and Brooke, she's going to be 9 this month.
She turns 9 in a couple days?
Yeah, on the 9th.
Did you enter into an agreement with your ex-wife to allow her to relocate to Titusville?
Yes.
And the both of you did that without attorneys? It was just an agreement that the two of you came to?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of what was going to happen regarding Andrew?
He was to finish out school with me, and then he would go over there.
And did that occur?
No.
What happened?
I don't remember the exact date. It was in April, I believe, of 24 that the school had contacted me because they had felt something was wrong with her coming and picking him up and the way she was acting. And so I then...
So how did you react to that?
I was alarmed. So I tried calling Andrew and his phone was off. I tried calling her, no response, and Brooke and phones were both off also.
Did you travel over to Titusville?
Yes.
Did you subsequently pick up Andrew?
Yes.
And has Andrew been with you since that time?
Yes.
Prior to Andrew coming to live with you in approximately April of 2024, what sort of parenting time did you have with the two younger children?
Prior to her moving over there?
Yes.
It was Tuesdays and Thursdays and every other weekend, plus or minus the holidays.
And did that continue once she relocated?
No. It was supposed to be every other weekend, and then the holidays worked out.
And were you allowed to see Brooke?
No.
Did you make attempts to try and?
Yes.
Did the agreement have an exchange location where you were supposed to exchange Brooke?
Supposed to exchange at the racetrack in Winter Garden, I believe.
Did you recently get an opportunity to visit with Brooke?
Yes, I was able to go and pick her up in Titusville for Thanksgiving.
And how did the Thanksgiving visit go?
Went good.
Did your ex-wife inform you that she was going on a cruise and taking the children?
She did.
And what was your position regarding that?
I wasn't okay with it. I let her know I wasn't okay with it.
And why was it that you weren't okay with it?
Because at that time, I was getting nowhere with seeing my kids. I had barely any communication at all.
So you weren't even able to hardly talk to them?
No.
Have there been occasions where you've been able to talk to them?
Occasions, she would have them talk just to say that they didn't want to talk to me.
Was that by phone?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not she was present there with the phone?
I mean, I heard them there. Occasionally they would talk because I would be on speaker.
You heard your ex-wife there?
Her and Chris.
Were there ever attempts for an exchange?
Yes.
And what occurred during those attempts?
They wouldn't show. They would say that she would say that they didn't want to come with me and that she wanted to proceed with therapy in advance before we did anything.
Did you have any problem participating in therapy if that was arranged?
No.
Did you ever get invited to any therapy?
She might have invited me. I don't remember exactly, but I did speak with a therapist.
Did that therapist remain the therapist for the children?
No, I don't remember when they removed them from that, but to my knowledge, they didn't get another therapist after, I believe her name was Amber.
Did you recently agree for to reside with a third party?
Yes, that way I can get them away from the whole situation over there.
When you say the situation over there between Shauntel and Chris?
Yeah, the whole situation, I didn't really want him going into a facility or to Chris's friend that has a tow truck company. That was a suggestion.
Those were the other suggestions?
Yes.
And as far as is located closer to you now?
Yes.
And are there restrictions on your contact with?
I'm not supposed to go over there. I do talk to him. I'm not supposed to go over there. I'm not supposed to really talk to him.
Why? What do you mean? Why are you not supposed to?
I don't know. I tried to get, when I had Brooke for Thanksgiving, I tried to get all three of the siblings to see each other because they've all told me they wanted to see each other. So I had messaged Shauntel and she wasn't okay with it.
So hold on just a second. Let me understand this, sir. We're here for an emergency motion because you believe Mom has made some decisions that are detrimental to Brooke.
Yes.
As a result of some things that happened on the ship, but you were going to take Brooke to see or to get to be with Brooke. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
She asked to see her brother.
So because an 8-year-old asked to see her brother, you were going to accommodate her to do that?
Supervised, yes.
Go ahead.
And because the mother said no, you didn't do that, correct?
No, correct.
And it's her family that has in their care right now, correct?
Correct.
Are you having more contact with now than you've been allowed to have in the past?
Yes.
And as far as in the past year, let's say, you've been having a lot more contact with now?
Yes.
Did you have some concerns for care while he was with his mother?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know what all was going on.
Is that part of the problem? You're not aware of what's going on with either Brooke or?
Correct.
Were you aware that he was prescribed some medication?
I knew he was on medication. I didn't know exactly what kinds, what names.
Was that discussed with you prior to going on the medications?
No, I was told after he got the prescriptions.
Did you express your concerns to the mother?
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody needs to be on certain things for certain situations, but I'm not okay with a lot of the side effects on some of the medications.
As far as you talked about the exchanges, Have you ever seen the stepfather, Chris, interfere with the exchanges?
Yes.
And how so?
Just before Thanksgiving, we met at a fire station, and he and his family got out of the car. Shauntel never got out. Brooke refused, of course, to get out. And I think after he said the third time, she said she didn't want to go. He stepped between me and the door, closed the door, said to get away from his vehicle, and that they were leaving.
So you weren't given the opportunity to try and take Brooke out of the vehicle?
No, I was told not to reach my hands inside the vehicle or anything.
Had either Chris or his family attended other attempts to?
Chris has, yes.
Have there been any of these attempts to have parenting time where Chris hasn't been involved?
Not that I can recall, no.
Back on March 12th of last year, of 2024, you signed an amended parenting plan at that time regarding your 3 children, correct?
Yes.
And that document was filed with the court, and an order was entered to approve it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and did anybody hold a gun to your head to sign that agreement?
No, I thought we came to an agreement.
Okay, and so you signed it freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
And that agreement was for all 3 children to be able to relocate to Titusville with Miss Kepner, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when you testified earlier that it was your understanding that your oldest son was going to stay and finish out the school year, that's nowhere indicated in the paperwork, correct?
That was an agreement me and the mother had.
Okay, so you're saying it was a verbal agreement, but it wasn't in the amended parenting plan that you signed, correct?
No, ma'am, but that's what my oldest wanted at the time.
And you were aware that that language was not contained in the amended parenting plan that you signed, correct?
Yes, that's why we had the discussion.
Mm-hmm. And when you had this verbal agreement, there was no further written agreements made to solidify that, correct?
I could probably go through and see if there was any text or anything. That might take a while, but as far as I remember, it was a verbal agreement we had a talk with Andrew about.
My question was there wasn't anything signed by both of you saying that your son Andrew, who was 16 at the time, was going to remain in Hernando County, correct?
No, it was just an agreement.
Okay. You indicated that you saw your daughter for Thanksgiving, correct?
Yes.
And how did you effectuate that visit?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
So you sent a text message or an email to Miss Kepner saying you were coming to pick the child up for Thanksgiving and to meet at the designated meeting place, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she appeared with the child, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The weekend prior to that, on the day of the funeral of the 18-year-old child, you had sent a message that you wanted to pick up Brooke the next day, correct?
Yes.
And that you expected them to be there, correct?
Correct.
And they showed up, correct?
Yep.
Your daughter didn't want to get out of the car, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And prior to that, wouldn't it be fair to say, sir, that there were no other times when you sent a text message saying that you were going to meet at the racetrack or any other location to come pick up your children for your time sharing, correct?
There is a lot of times stating that I was going to be there and I could show up.
Let me bring in trial attorney Bob Hilla. And Bob, this is a little bit different than most of the criminal trials that we cover. This is an emergency custody hearing, as you well know. And this is the father of a youngest child filing this to say, I don't want the youngest child around the alleged suspect in the murder of Anna, who is also a minor child. How is this playing out in your mind?
Well, I think in terms of the credibility, this witness is pretty credible, and it was kind of funny because I think there was going to be a follow-up cross. She was expecting, I think, the witness to deny certain things, and he didn't. So there was sort of a pause there. But I think, ultimately, like with any case, they have to prove the merits. But what does this court have to decide? There was a parenting plan. This court now needs to weigh the evidence, the credibility of the testimony, and make a decision. Do we change that parenting plan, and why? And basically, though, here, the standard is what's best for the subject child. There is always a presumption that, in this case at least, since there was a custody plan approved by the court, that remain in effect. But now they want to change because now there's some sort of a change in circumstances that places the child at risk. At least that's what would be implied by these proceedings. So now this judge has to look into this case and the evidence before her and decide, what is it? Is there a change in circumstance that puts this child at risk? What is that? And is residing now with the father, the answer to protecting the child and the best interest of the child, which is basically what the court's charge is in this circumstance.
Right. All right. Thank you. That gives so much context to our viewers of exactly what's happening in this hearing. You're going to stand by because we'll talk about how it relates, if it does, to any potential criminal charges next. But we need to take a break. We'll bring you more of this emergency family custody hearing in Florida. Plus, we are in verdict watch in Georgia versus Trinity Pogue. You can see up on your screen the jury has been out for an hour and 56 minutes. Of course, when that verdict comes in, we'll bring it to you live here on Court TV. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. We are in Florida today for a hearing related to the cruise ship death of teen Anna Kepner. Shauntel Kepner, who is married to Anna Kepner's biological father, Christopher Kepner, is in a dispute with her ex-husband over the custody of 2 of their 3 children, one of which is being investigated in connection to Anna's death. Let's go back inside the courtroom for this civil case. Shauntel's stepmother is on the stand testifying about underage drinking occurring in Shauntel's home.
Please state your name, ma'am.
Sonia Zisk.
Okay. And do you know Shauntel Hudson?
Yes, I do.
How do you know that? How do you know Shauntel?
I'm her stepmother.
And do you recall if Shauntel relocated to Titusville?
Yes, I do.
Do you know where she was living prior to relocating?
Excuse me, Your Honor, can we ask the witness to speak up? I can't.
Ma'am, if I could get you to speak into the microphone, ma'am, so that everyone's able to hear you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know where she was living prior to her relocating to Titusville?
Yes, she was living with us.
And what city do you reside in?
Weeki Wachee?
Were you residing in Weeki Wachee at that time?
Yes.
When was this, ma'am?
We've been there for about 2 years now, so 23? Around summer of 23 is when we moved where we're at.
Summer of 23?
And did Miss Shauntel reside with you there from the time that you moved there?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall how long she lived with you until she relocated to Titusville?
She moved in there around, we did like June, and then I want to say by not even, I want to say it was probably April of 24, right around there. I don't know exactly.
About April of 24 is when you recall that she relocated?
Yes, it was before the end of May, so it was before school got out.
Are you aware of, while she was living with you, were you aware at some point that she was allowing the minor children to drink alcohol?
I saw it one time.
What were the circumstances? What did you see?
I walked in the house. They were sitting at the island.
Who's they?
Shauntel, Andrew, and were sitting around the island and I do believe, I think it was Chris that was on FaceTime, and they had shot glasses in front of them, and I'm like, what are you doing? She said they just wanted to taste what it tasted like.
Who's they?
The boys.
She allowed all 3 boys to?
There was 2, Andrew and...
So she allowed, there was 3 shot glasses, 1 for Mom, 1 for Andrew, and 1.
Yes, ma'am.
What was your relationship with the children while they were residing with you?
Very good. Very good.
And just to clarify, as far as you indicated, your stepmother, Shauntel, correct? You're married to her father?
Yes.
And her father resided in that home as well?
Yes, sir.
Since she moved over to Titusville with Chris, have you and your husband been allowed to have contact with the minor children?
No.
No further questions this week.
Shauntel didn't live in the actual house with you, with the kids. She lived on another home or parcel on the same property, correct?
About 100 foot from they're about 100 foot apart.
Okay. But she wasn't with you in your particular house, correct?
No.
And neither were the kids?
No.
Okay. You said that you saw the kids drink alcohol on this one occasion. It was just the one occasion?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was it that they were allegedly drinking?
I did not look at the bottle that was sitting there.
Well, how do you know it was alcohol?
Because I knew it was alcohol. I didn't look at the name of the bottle. There was a bottle sitting there. I didn't look to see what the name was. I went on about my business.
And did you say anything to Shauntel that you didn't think that was a good idea or anything like that?
I questioned it, and she said they wanted to see what it tasted like, so she said she was going to let them while they were at home instead of out somewhere.
Okay. And you said that since that Shauntel moved to or relocated to Titusville, you haven't seen the children. You haven't called her to request.
Oh, yes, I have.
Oh, you said you're saying
I have
that
left
you called
messages.
her?
I have texted her. We have reached out. There was a falling out about Chris, and she didn't want anything else to do with us because her dad told her that he couldn't come around.
Because your dad, meaning your husband,
Yes.
told her that Chris couldn't come around?
Yes.
Okay. And this falling out was because Chris allegedly cut some trees to clean up the yard at your request, correct?
That and some other things, but that's something you'd have to ask him his opinion.
Okay.
Or I'm not going to answer for him.
Okay. But it would be fair to say you haven't seen the children since she's relocated.
I haven't.
And you haven't sent them a Christmas card?
Oh, yeah. I called to get her address. I texted her to get her address, and she wouldn't give it to me.
Okay. And you haven't...
And I still have their gift cards that I had gotten them.
Okay. But you didn't give it to them?
I wasn't allowed to.
I see. Okay. Have you ever been to Titusville? Did you ever come over here?
No.
Okay.
Why am I going to drive 2.5 hours if I'm told I can't see them?
No, I have no further questions, ma'am.
Redirect.
In addition to being told you can't see them, you were denied even having their address, right?
Yeah.
And when you said there was a falling out and Chris was told he couldn't be around, was that you or was that your husband?
It was my husband.
And this property that we're talking about, was it your husband's property?
It was ours, yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned another home. Were both homes on your property?
Yes, sir. And the reason that I say she lived with us is because we actually were in both houses because the houses are very small. So we had to use, I have 5 people in my home. We had one restroom, and I told that was part of the deal, is that we had to use that house too. So
you both used both houses?
We used both houses.
Would you see the children on a daily basis?
Yes. Brooke would always come over and see me and play with Max, and she was always at my house.
No further questions.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, stay with us. We do have to squeeze in a break, but up next, we're going to hear the judge's decision in this family custody hearing. Up next.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight, on closing arguments, a murder on a cruise ship and a custody dispute involving a suspected teenage killer. We'll bring you the latest surrounding the death of Anna Kepner.
Closing arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now turning to Florida, staying in Florida for the child custody hearing involving the family of Anna Kepner, the teen who was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship just last month. Shauntel Kepner, who is married to Anna Kepner's biological father, Christopher Kepner, is in a dispute with her ex-husband over the custody of 2 of their 3 children. That includes Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother, who is being investigated in connection to the death of Anna. Let's get you back inside the courtroom now. The judge is about to make her ruling.
Not that I'm trying to deny you, Ms. Athanason, of any time to put on your case, but you know the issue for this court today is whether or not the children in this case are in imminent danger. And I've heard lots of testimony with regard to what happened back in 2024, what happened on the West Coast, but other than the incident that happened on the cruise, I've heard nothing to indicate that Brooke is in imminent danger or harm at this time. How long is he expected to remain with the relative?
At this point, we're not sure. We're not sure what the FBI is going to do, whether he's going to be charged federally or whether they're going to turn it over to the state. My client is waiting to hear on that. They're also waiting on some testing results. They've done a bunch of psychological testing and psychiatric testing, so they're also waiting to hear about that. And so they don't know at this time how long the child is going to be at her relative's house.
Is there any expectation that he will be coming back to Titusville in the near future?
No.
Okay. All right. Then, based on the evidence that's been presented today, I don't find that there is an emergency and that Brooke is in any imminent risk of harm. I understand that there may be some issues with regard to contempt. I understand that there is a hearing pending on December the 17th before Magistrate Valentin as it relates to the motion for contempt, and I believe an amended motion for contempt has been filed as well. But for my purposes, the only thing that the court was here to hear this morning is the emergency motion for temporary relief, most specifically as to paragraph 17 or 19, when it says the youngest child is at immediate risk of abuse, abandonment, or neglect in the care of the respondent. The court has not heard anything to indicate that there is an imminent risk to Brooke. Now, certainly, if there was a situation where was returned to the home and is in the home with Brooke, that may be another basis to for a motion to be brought at that time. But so long as no longer in the home, I don't see that there would be any risk to Brooke. So yes, sir, I hear you, Mr. Smith.
I actually didn't say anything yet.
Okay, I looked like you were about to. So I am going to deny the emergency motion for temporary relief. I will prepare a written order, and I will have that order filed, I would anticipate, by Monday or Tuesday of next week. All right, that concludes the proceedings. Thank you all very much.
An interesting turn of events. Still with us, trial attorney Bob Hillis. So, Bob, we just learned from the judge the reason why she's denying she's not going to do anything on this emergency motion is because the person, the minor child that is allegedly being investigated in connection with the death of Anna, has been removed from the home and is no longer in the home with the youngest child that father's concerned about. So the court said there's nothing there for me to consider because they're already separated. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think the court got it right here. It's a very difficult situation, and the judge rightfully was concerned about the suspect, who, by the way, is currently the sole suspect in the death of the half-sibling. So, you know, the real issue here was, and the only issue for this judge was, is the child in risk of imminent harm being with the parent? And the evidence, frankly, was pretty thin in that regard. Certainly there was no threat or risk to upset or change the current custody arrangement by virtue of anything that the biological mother is accused of.
So the real question, Bob, is how does this play in if there are any criminal charges against the alleged sole person suspect being investigated? Can this hearing be used in that proceeding? Does this give some information that can be used in preparing for possible criminal charges?
Well, you know, the question is always, is it discovery? Because it's going to include the state or the federal government in on what people might say if it's relevant. Or was there anything of evidentiary use that could be admissible in the trial? I didn't really hear anything that had to do with statements made, inculpatory or otherwise, by the suspect that might bear any relevancy in the criminal matter. You know, so I think, at least from what we heard in this segment, I didn't hear anything that really was going to be impactful in the criminal trial, if there is one.
Yeah, we'll see what happens if there is one. Bob Hillis, always appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for being with me.